Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on the Sitcom Showdown. Welcome back to Sitcom Showdown. It's Jeffers here and Steve's with me.
Hello.
Right, it's my turn, Steve, and you know what we're doing this week in a first ever for Sitcom Showdown. Here we are at episode 20 because my wife Jane blurted out.
She let the cat out of the bag.
That it's going to be Vicar of Dibley.
Yeah, Vicar of Dibley.
They've done a lot of specials. This is a Christmas special that we'll be doing called the Christmas Lunch Incident, but in this, it's from the second series, and they did an Easter special as well, and right, so this is the second special of Vicar of Dibley. It's from the second series, and it's the 8th episode overall. So I shall describe the Vicar of Dibley for anyone who's not watched it. Geraldine Granger is a vicar, and she's sent on her first posting at a time in society when there was presumably not very many female vicars. And in fact, this, in the timeline, came out 2 years after they started allowing female vicars. Mm-hmm. And she ends up in the village of Dibley, and she's got the tricky task of winning over all the kooky residents. And she faces a bit of polite British hostility from David Horton, who he's more or less lord of the manor around there. You know, he's the rich guy whose family's been there forever and probably owns half the village, etc. He's certainly the largest landowner, and he's on all the village committees and all these sorts of things.
He's used to getting his way.
He's used to getting his way, and I think he's the chairman of the church committee as well. Anyway, needless to say that those two go head-to-head for a while, and then, you know, eventually she ends up fitting in with them, and they end up changing as people. Mm-hmm. Presumably for the better.
Well, you'd like to think so.
You do like to think so. I think they think so. It was on BBC One in the UK from 1994 to 1998, and then a bunch of specials. Okay, so it's a tricky one with Vicar of Dibley as to how they came out and series and all that. So bear with me. There were 2 seasons. There was one of 6 episodes and one of 4 episodes with 2 specials. Then after that, there was sort of a series in quote marks where you had 4 seasonal specials, which would be, you know, summer, winter, autumn, and spring. All in all, though, there were 20 episodes, 10 of which were specials. 5 of them were Christmas specials. Anyhow, the main star is Dawn French, of course, as the Vicar of Dibley, Geraldine Granger. Yep. And we know her from French and Saunders, comedy duo who did a lot of sketch series. She was part of the Comic Strip Presents team. Yep. And I'd forgotten that she had her own series, Murder Most Horrid.
And was that a comedy?
Well, it was sort of a comedy drama, more comedy than drama, probably. I've only ever watched a couple of episodes when it first came out, but she, unlike most shows where, you know, like Rosemary and Thyme, where they'll wander into a different village and there's been a murder and they solve it, she's the murderer as a different character. So each show is a whole new show, but she's the murderer.
Interesting.
That's a cool, refreshing change.
She was also in Lark Rise to Candlefoot.
Oh, was she really?
Yeah. Well, I should say she does play quite a serious role in that as well.
As a murderer?
No, not as a murderer. Oh. But she's mum of a family her husband is a sailor, so he's away a lot. And she struggles to take care of the family, and I think she turns to drink and is quite irresponsible and struggles quite a lot. Right.
Gary Waldhorn as David Horton. And we know him as the boss in Brush Strokes.
Yeah, Lionel.
Yeah.
He's a similar character in that too.
I reckon you're right. I can't remember much about Brush Strokes.
Bit of a sourpuss.
He must specialise in those roles.
Yep.
We better get through this massive cast.
That's right, you can just edit
quickly.
out the bits we don't...
Yeah.
you don't like.
Okay, that's right. Roger Lloyd Pack, another famous sitcom actor and famous actor, as Owen the farmer. He was Trigger in Only Fools and Horses for 12 years.
Yeah.
And he did 12 episodes of a medical sitcom called Health and Efficiency. Medical sitcoms are your bag, dude. You should check out Health and Efficiency.
Yeah, maybe. We'll put it on the list.
Yeah, and of course he was in Harry Potter as Barty Crouch Sr. Emma Chambers as Alice Tinker, which is a starring role in this show. It's a role of a lifetime, Alice Tinker. And she won Best Actress in the British Comedy Awards. for that very role. An interesting thing I found out while cruising IMDb is that in 1998 she was in a sitcom 2 series worth called How Do You Want Me with Dylan Moran. And I think we asked the question when we did Black Books, did he do any other sitcoms or anything?
I'll put that on the list too.
Okay, which list?
Well, the list of things to check out.
Things to check out. I think we need another Google document on the Facebook page.
Oh, I can add that in pretty easy.
Yes.
She was also a star of a rather large movie, and it was wasn't it a Richard Curtis one as well?
Oh, okay. I haven't got that written down. Trevor Peacock is Jim Trott. No.
Yes.
Yeah. And John Bluthal as Frank Pickle. I'll keep going to say Frank Pike, who, of course, is from Dad's Army. He's Australian. And I think he now lives in Australia in his 80s. Sorry, you were going to say something there.
No, carry on.
Oh, I will carry on.
I've got something to say if you don't say it first.
Right. He's been in the Goodies. Do you remember the clown virus episodes episode where the Goodies became clowns? And he was the army guy that told them to dispose of the giant can of tomato soup. And it's a brilliant role, and he's fantastic in it. He was also in another sitcom we've mentioned before, but never seen. Never mind the quality, feel the width.
Right.
He was also in A Hard Day's Night, Help, Casino Royale, Fifth Element, Jonathan Creek, Riley Ace of Spies, Lovejoy, Bergerac, and worked a lot with Spike Milligan.
Huh.
Oh, and he had his own 2-series ABC sitcom.
Yes, this is what I was going to mention.
Oh, really? Oh, hit us with it.
It was called Home Sweet Home, and he played a character called Enzo Bocelli. Do you remember that?
No.
I definitely remember watching that back in the day.
Okay.
Because I recognised him when he was in Vicar of Dibley.
I mean, what a versatile dude.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant character actor because everyone he plays is so different.
Yep.
Let's nip off and watch this 42-minute
42 minutes?
Epic of a sitcom episode, and we'll come back and I'll launch into a massive synopsis.
Okay.
And 3 seconds of comments. Right, we'll be back soon.
Okay.
Hello, Vicar. May I have a word?
Yep, you carry on.
The other night, you said, was I going to ask you to Christmas lunch? And I said no, and then you snogged me.
Did I?
Yes. And now I've realised that was your subtle female way of angling for an invite.
I don't think it was.
And I missed it, because I'm not a subtle female. So now I'm asking, would you come to lunch?
Oh, Owen. I would love to.
It's just that you're alone and I'm alone, and it's not that I want the company or anything, although it might be nice to hear a human voice on Christmas Day, since I've spent every Christmas alone since my uncle died in the year they introduced decimal currency. Not that you have to come, of course, because I know I'm a misery, though I have got a lot of love in my heart, as any of my cows will tell you.
Yeah, I think I got that bit.
So what do you say? Join me at Christmas lunch for the first time since 1971, or reject me, just like I've been rejected every day by everyone ever since I was born. What do you say?
I say yum yum in my tum.
So we've just watched it, and this is what happened. So it opens at the vicarage with Geraldine and her verger, Alice, who isn't the brightest spark, decorating the tree, the Christmas tree, and they're chatting away. And this whole setup thing, well, I don't know why I call it a setup thing, because it's all pretty inconsequential chit-chat with a few gags thrown in. They're just decorating the tree. And then we cut to everyone at a party at David Horton's. So he's having everyone round from the church committee for a few drinkies on Christmas Eve afternoon or whatever it is. And while people are mingling, Jim and Frank corner Geraldine and ask the vicar to Christmas lunch. And she agrees. But awkwardly, not long later, David pulls Geraldine aside and invites her to Christmas lunch because he's making this special effort to make himself a better person. And he's sort of learned to cook, and it's sort of a big step forward for him. And she tries to explain that she's already invited to Christmas lunch, and sort of she can tell he's about to take it quite badly. Anyway,
he's trying to become a better person while he's also taking pot shots at the kiddies singing the Christmas carols.
That's true. But anyway, she doesn't want to let anyone down, so she commits to 2 Christmas lunches. And Alice had arrived with some kiddie carol singers, and there's a great scene where they do their carols very badly and or naughtily or just faultily because they're under the tutelage of Alice. And it's this whole long scene at David's is really good for plot advancement and character development, and there's heaps of funny jokes in there. And there's a tiny scene with Hugo and Alice under the mistletoe, and it's a little sweet, awkward moment with them two, and they don't end up kissing after getting this close. And then they both go their separate ways.
Just draw that out for a bit longer.
Yeah. David asked Geraldine how the Christmas sermon is going, and Geraldine sort of blithely replies that she hasn't done it yet, and David's sort of pointing out, it's the keynote speech at the party conference. You have to get this right. It has to be incredible, or basically you're going to lose them for the rest of the year. They'll be back to Satan until next December. It's the only time the whole village is there at church, and so he's planting the seed that you better pull your finger out.
Stakes are high.
They are high. So we cut to the next day, and it's this short scene of Geraldine desperately workshopping her speech with Alice, but it doesn't go well. Anyway, they exchange presents, and there's lots of jokes in this bit, and Alice then, after the present exchange where she gets her a Spice Girls book, she sort of says, okay, yep, no worries, good luck, and I'll see you at lunch. And Geraldine is sort of, what? And the upshot of it is that it's a brilliant scene. It's very, very funny.
They've all got their sob stories which are manipulating her into...
Oh, totally.
...to going along.
You're absolutely right. So at this point, we're up to 3 lunches. And meanwhile, there's still the sermon to come. So anyway, we go to the sermon scene, which is all pretty quick. It's not much of a subplot. This is, because Owen has arrived just before this saying, look, I can't come along to the sermon. Is that okay? Because one of his sheep's had a bit of an emergency with a fishhook, and you're wincing as you watch this. And this is part of Owen's shtick, is he just lets fly with these incredibly unpleasant farming anecdotes that gross everybody out. Yeah. Anyway, and she just says, look, no worries. And she said, I'm just really glad that you didn't come around to ask me to Christmas lunch. Anyway, we go to the sermon, and Geraldine's had to improvise, and she's delivered this sermon, drawing parallels with the story of Mary and the story of the Spice Girls. Mm-hmm. And everyone's sort of saying, yeah, no, that went well. It was a really good sermon and everything. And so David says, right, I'll see you at 1 for lunch. And then Frank and Jim come through. And they say, see you at 1. And she goes, oh, can we have it a bit earlier? And they say, well, when would you like? And she goes, in about 5 minutes. And so I'm assuming it's about 11 o'clock at that stage or something. Anyway.
He says, oh, I'll just go home and put the turkey in the microwave now.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Microwave turkey.
Geraldine goes off to lunch, the first lunch at Jim and Frank's. And so this is the beginning of a long and recurring set of jokes in various ways. And they're very clever. Richard Curtis is very clever the way he's threaded them through. Anyway, yeah, it's about, a lot of them are about the ridiculous of the size of what people serve up and the ridiculousness of the food they serve up. And she says, all right, guys, I just want a few slices of turkey and some veg. And they go, oh, absolutely. And bring out this, what isn't necessarily a plate, but is a whole serving tray. And it's meat and 16 veg, which apparently is the staple in Dibley. And
but only in there, only for their lunch.
Yeah, that's right. Because it doesn't get repeated anywhere else. But yeah, so anyway, then she's absolutely stuffed after all of that, and it's only lunch 1. And then
because they give her a whole pudding after
they bring out the pudding, and she goes, I'll have a little bit of that. And it's a whole one each.
Yeah.
But the good thing is they're telling these Christmas cracker jokes, and then Jim's telling jokes, and there's a knock knock.
Yeah.
No, you're supposed to respond, Steph.
Who's there?
Doctor.
Doctor Who?
Yes. Richard Curtis, Doctor Who gag.
I thought that almost could have been an outtake because they were just absolutely cacking themselves laughing.
Yeah, so There's lots of this coming up. Geraldine leaves and she rushes off to the Horton house for lunch. And so she's going, I'm so late. And so she starts running, and after a few steps, she just stops and says, that's a big mistake, because, she's not very fit and she's got a full tum. So she arrives at the Horton house in their beautiful dining room, and this table is just covered with plates that are just mounded up. And so there's a quick saying of grace, and Geraldine lifts the lid off her, I don't know what those lids are called, like a metal, big, enormous serving tray lid. There's got to be a word for it, Steve.
Samovar, is that it?
Could be. So she lifts it off this plate, and she's relieved to see there's no turkey. But she's going, that's a nice touch, just going for this beautifully prepared pasta and salad. And he goes, no, not for the starter, no. And so she says, this family-sized portion of pasta is the starter. And they're beaming at her, and they're so pleased about their cooking skills. Anyway, so she scoffs that down. And as she's finishing it, she says, you'll just have to forgive me if I don't have much turkey, David. And he goes, no, you won't have any turkey. Well, that's a relief. Not until you have the fish course. And she has to have a whole fish, and then they bring on the turkey, and then there's a sprouts eating competition. And anyway, after all of that, and she really is absolutely chockers at this point, she tries to leave, but Hugo brings out a massive Christmas pud as a reward for winning the sprouts competition. And then she after that gets up, and she's wedged in the chair. The first of 2 chair gags. So we've got a transition between houses as she's moving from the Horton house to the third lunch at Alice's house. And so like the first transition where she's running, this time she's crawling down the street and threatening to kill Delia, the celebrity chef who everyone's... Anyway, so we cut to Alice letting Geraldine in. And poor Geraldine's groaning and staggering, and then she just plonks herself down to get some relief in this chair, which instantly breaks, and she ends up on the floor. They have to bring her another chair. This whole section with Alice's family, with Alice's mum and her sister, it's just gold. I really love it because, anyway. And I've watched this several times, and I only just realised for the first time as I was preparing for this, that's Mel from Great British Bake Off as Alice's sister.
No way.
Yeah. And so I thought she was a stand-up. I didn't know she acted in things, but obviously she might have lots of these little roles. So that was really good. Anyway, Geraldine's, before they eat, she's telling them this fable about a nice lady vicar who'd agreed to 3 Christmas lunches, but the third family, where her best friend lived, understood and just gave her a cup of tea when she explained about the 3 lunches. And of course, Alice's sister starts crying, and Alice says, that's where it differs from her life. That would never happen if it was her, because she'd be really upset that the vicar friend had already eaten. And Geraldine's going, no. But she's thankful they're too thick to understand the parable.
Yeah.
But she knows she's going to have to eat everything, and the starter is a bowl of stuffing.
Stuffing balls.
And they go straight from that to her trying to leave to save us sitting through another Christmas lunch scene. Yes, bowls of stuffing. That'd be my favourite starter. Out of all the starters that were served, bowls of stuffing, man. They could have been fried, that would be even better. So Geraldine eventually escapes from this third Christmas lunch and hops into a taxi, which drives all of 50 yards to her front door. Because she just can't move at this point. And she collapses in her front door, face down, without even having been able to shut the door behind her. And Owen comes round, and he says, I was thinking about our encounter yesterday where you mentioned something about Christmas lunch, and I realised that was your subtle female way of angling for an invite, but I'm not a subtle female, so I didn't get it. And so, to cut a long story short, she ends up around Owen's having Christmas lunch because, of course, he's been alone on Christmas Day since 1971 and everyone hates him. And
that monologue he gives at the front door is just the funniest thing. You'll have to insert that one, Jeff.
So needless to say, she's had 4 Christmas lunches, the starter for which is tripe. On Owen's one. Then to top it all off, he's laid out this massive spread, and he goes, I'm not eating anything, I've got an upset stomach. So then she has to politely eat all that. So he's bringing her back to her house on some sort of low loader tractor / forklift because she is virtually unconscious at this point.
Yeah.
And that's hilarious. I just love that. They could have ended it there, but it goes on for probably another 12 minutes. So bear with me. She's crashed out on the couch, and there's a ring at the doorbell, and it's her dream man from last season, Tristan Campbell. who's played by Peter Capaldi, who we now know is Doctor Who.
Yep.
Knock knock, who's there? Yes, it's Tristan, and he asks her to marry him, and she's losing it. And this is the best thing that's ever happened to her in her life. And he pops back out to the car, but he comes back with a lady and introduces her as his fiancée after Geraldine's just said yes to marrying him. But
Classic
of course,
go.
then we go.
Classic.
Yes, she's a vicar. She's going to marry him to her, and it's this misunderstanding, etc. She's rather upset by that, and eventually, after they leave, she's lying there listening to something in New York by the Pogues. What's it called, Steve?
Fairy Tale of New York.
Fairy Tale of New York, everyone's favourite Christmas song.
Very good song.
Yeah. You'd only mentioned it this morning, amazingly.
Did I?
Yeah.
Huh.
As we were talking about which
we were
vinyl
talking
you
about
used to.
45 singles.
Yeah. So that's another coincidence. Anyhow, we're nearly at the end.
Hang in there, listeners.
The doorbell rings, and it's Alice, and she's just saying, you might be a bit lonely, Vicar. I thought I'd come around and keep you company, and how great everything is since you've arrived, and you're the best vicar. And then everybody else comes round, and they bring turkey sandwiches, and then they toast the vicar and play a short game of charades, which the vicar, after having one bite of turkey sandwich, goes straight to the loo at the beginning of all of this, and she's not playing charades.
No.
Because we soon see that even though they've been having fun and turkey sandwiches and games and wine and toasting the vicar, she's still sitting on the lavatory, and she says she'll be out at New Year. And we end the episode with a toilet gag, which is brilliant. Yes, that always goes down well in this household. Toilet humour. And we're at the end of the episode. And it's all very nice, and it ends with them all saying how brilliant it is since the vicar came to the village. Ah! So that's 42 minutes worth of Vicar of Dibley. Now, I'm exhausted, so I'm going to hand it over to you, Steve.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'll add some comments in.
okay.
I thought that the Christmas lunch incident sounded a bit like a Big Bang Theory title.
I agree.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Maybe that's where they got the idea from.
Oh, could be.
The sermon that she first starts writing, she chooses John chapter 1, which is pretty theologically dense. This is roughly the equivalent of trying to write the English dictionary overnight with the help of Prince George and Baldric.
Oh, so that's a nice inside joke for people who know their religion.
Yeah, so it's not... She could have gone for something much simpler. And then Alice, when they're continuing to talk about the sermon, Alice complains that she chose a bit of a boring subject for the sermon.
The greatest story ever told.
The birth of Christ.
And she goes, well,
She said it's got a nice twist, but,
once you've heard it once.
Yeah, once you... this is where she decides to dumb it down a bit and go for the Spice Girls anecdote. The scene where Jim and Frank are trying to talk the vicar into going around to their place for lunch. And they're talking about... first they call her a bit of totty, and then they promise her sex, drugs, and Swiss rolls. I thought that was a classic gag.
Oh.
The children singing the Christmas carols, they sing the first bit where they sing, oh, and they just keep going lower and lower and lower.
Bit from Ding Dong Merrily on High.
Well, that's lovely.
And everyone's looking at each other like, what is going on?
What?
Of course, Alice is in charge of this, and it kind of explains why it might be going wrong.
Oh, man.
And then the next Christmas carol turns out to be a cross between a Christmas carol and a dirty limerick or something like that.
Yes, it's a dirty version of one of the carols, and the Vic stops it just in time.
Yes, and Alice has got no idea what these naughty children are getting up to. That was pretty funny. I liked Alice's Christmas lunch at Alice's family. Alice is wearing baubles for earrings.
Oh, really?
And some kind of a fairy costume.
Oh, yeah.
Her family are so thick, it's
Unbelievable.
absolutely hilarious. Like, you wouldn't have thought there could possibly be anyone more thick than Alice, but
And she's a genius compared to...
she is. She's got massive IQ compared to her sister and mum.
And on that topic, and it's not in my notes and we don't have time for it, but I'll just tell you. Well, every time you interact with Alice's mum, she go, oh, hi. Hi, Mrs. Tinker, it's nice to meet you. Oh, is it? Yes, it is. Oh, it is it? Yes. Oh, so it is it? Yes. And so she goes through this 3-question cycle, and that's sort of caught on a bit in our house. And then, we do that quite often just to annoy the crap out of the other person. Yes, we do, Steve. Do you? Yes, we do. Oh, you do you? Yes.
Oh, I could go all night.
Oh.
So one of them gives, I can't remember if it was her mum or her sister, gives the vicar an Easter egg for Christmas.
Oh, that's the
hilarious.
sister. Yeah.
Absolutely hilarious.
Oh.
Oh, I've reached the end of my notes.
Just going back to Alice's mum, the vicar leaves and she's been wearing a dog collar and she's been doing her prayers and they've explained to her as the vicar, and then at the end of it she turns to Alice and goes, "Who is that then?"
Oh,
She's got no idea.
Imagine having her as your mother-in-law.
She wouldn't know who you were when you visited for the second time. She'd forget you existed. Anyway, I think this is a very nice, simple plot. It's not very complicated. There's no laughs at anyone's expense, really. I mean, there are laughs at people's expense, but it's just the situation with the eating and all the stuff. So it's not cruel humour. It's nice and it's good for the whole family, and the cast are uniformly excellent. But the thing about Christmas is that it's all about love, as they say in the episode. You put love out there like the vicar does, and you change people, and hopefully even into better people. And as you watch the series, and by the end of it, she has changed these people, and they're highly flawed, and then she's got her flaws as well, which she admits to. And Christmas is the best illustration of that, but it's throughout the whole Vicar of Dibley series. And at the moment in society, we've arrived at a place where basically everyone's hyper-vigilant of everyone else's flaws and looking for excuses to bring people down and going over their whole life with a fine-tooth comb and saying, "You said something nasty to someone, I'm going to unfriend you." And it's a crazy world at the moment, dude. And I just think that the vicar has been put into a situation with lots of very flawed people, and she comes to terms with them and leads by example and is kind and does these things, and they come to terms with her. And basically, at the end of the day, if you force yourself to interact with people that you don't agree with and all these sorts of things, everyone becomes a better person if you're just putting a lot of love and tolerance out there. I haven't phrased this in a neat one-sentence way that makes a lot of sense. I'm rambling. But I think there's a message in here is what I'm trying to say. There's a message in the Vicar of Dibley. So instead of being sarcastic and cynical and shallow and judging people, you should just accept and invest your affection in people and forgive and let higher forces do the judging. And be a better person and inspire others to pay it forward. And I think that's what the Vicar of Dibley preaches. And Christmas is a good time for it.
Yep. Is this less sarcastic than the usual episodes?
Yeah. What did you think was at the sarcasm level?
Well, I think they reined it in from my recollections of the Vicar of Dibley.
Yeah, because there was no meeting in the church hall, because normally at those meetings they open up with. She's constantly having to sarcasm the hell out of these crazy people. Is that what you meant? Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's a bit of a coping mechanism for her to kind of take the mickey out of people in a way that's over their heads and they don't understand, but she seemed to be doing less of it in this episode.
I think you're right. In summary, it's got a great message, and it's just simple fun, and it's a good Christmas episode. And so I hand it over to you, Steve.
I rest my case, Your Honour.
Yes, I rest my case, Your Honour, after much soul-searchingly something, which I
felt like you got all inspired in that.
Yeah, I did.
That's good. Well, I think it was excellent. No complaints. I was a bit concerned about the timing, because the 42-minute length. Oh. And I think there was the bit, I mean, in theory, you could almost end it after she comes back from the lunches.
Totally.
And then they have this section with Peter Capaldi's character coming in and the Marry Me gag, which was brilliant. But I think you needed that in there to create the buffer between the lunches and then the payoff at the very end where they all come around to her place and have a celebration and good fun and stuff like that. I don't think you could have put that ending bit hard up against the lunches. It wouldn't have worked as well. So, So yeah, I think overall it worked well.
Oh, good.
That timing, and yeah, it was very, very funny.
So it's going into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's going in.
All right. Well, what a fantastic Christmas treat we've had with these last couple of episodes.
Yes. And this one ticked quite a few Christmas boxes as well.
Yeah.
I would say just as many as Mr. Bean. It's legit. Apart from the fact that you see the outside of the church when they're all going home. And like you said, where's the snow? It should be bitterly cold. And
sleet and all that.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day.
Yeah.
Which never happens, presumably, on Christmas Day in England.
Yeah, well.
So, there you go. But I'd rather have a beautiful, sunny Dibley to look at on such an episode than a miserable, rainy Dibley.
I agree.
Yeah.
Plus, it would have made it difficult to do those outdoor
True.
scenes.
Yes, one hadn't thought of that. And, you have to film earlier in the year and leave enough time for editing for the Christmas episode, so you got to film in summer, don't you?
Yep.
So that's good then. I'm glad we did these Christmas episodes for December. It's a nice little change.
Yeah. It was a nice little challenge to try and pick a topic, stick with the topic, find something 5-star.
Yeah.
We might be able to do Halloween or Thanksgiving if we want to go down the US route.
You're absolutely right. There's tons of Halloween episodes of everything.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a thought for the future.
Yeah, it's a thought for Halloween. All right, good. Well, we'll be back with you next year, dear listener. And in the meantime, if you wanted to get in touch with Christmas episodes you think we should have covered or ones that are your favourites, get in touch with us at the usual places, which you'll be able to find in the outro to this show. Yeah. All right, well, I'm out of here. What are you doing, Steve?
What am I doing? I'm just laughing at you.
All right, no worries. Yes, well, we'll see you all next time.
Okay, see ya. Bye.
Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter at Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.